housekeeping things for those who haven't been here before and those who have and maybe have forgotten. The food I made myself, so help yourself throughout the evening. This is so great. So I see such an eclectic bunch of friends from both coasts in one place. So there's food. Help yourself throughout the evening. There's cocktails that I've made. There's wine and beer. It's upstairs. If you get too hot and you get too bored, just go upstairs, exit quietly-ish. Go up to the garden up there. What else? Okay, so in terms of like social media, and I always forget to say this, so I'm remembering tonight. We are Facebook Living tonight, and so folks can follow it at livingmacfacebook.com, livingmactavish. Ken, what's your social media?
Handle?
Yeah, I don't know how active you are on social media.
I'm on Twitter.
He's on Twitter. I know.
Ken_Goldberg.
Okay, yeah, and so if you want to follow, I'm on Instagram at MacTavishBest, and we also finally have an Instagram at livingmactavish, and we have Facebook and what have you. Anyway, we're filming tonight. So the topic tonight, it's not really a topic, it's an evening, it's an experience, and it's rock and robots. So, it's a little bit of everything for all the senses, which is kind of what you want on a Saturday night, right? So Ken and I are gonna have a little bit of chat about robots, and then Sunray is gonna perform, and we're gonna have some rock. So Ken is an old friend of mine. He is, you should chime in as I forget all the various things that you do, but he is a professor of robotics. He's at UC Berkeley. He's an artist. He has, with his art, it's been in the Whitney Biennial, it's been in Paris. Where in Paris? Pompidou Center?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my biggest claim to fame is that I saw Susan early. I saw the potential. I watched her meteoric rise with great appreciation.
Okay, so hey, let's get back to it. You have like 8 patents to your name, over 200 peer-reviewed articles. He's a super cool father to 2 girls. He's a super cool husband to Tiffany Schlane. But probably most importantly tonight, he is a godfather to 2 guys who are here today, right? Call yourselves out! Yes, exactly. But really, Ken is an old friend, and he's a roboticist. And you have spent 30 years thinking about robots. I think about that. We don't count numbers, but pretty much. So how have they changed you?
A robot?
Yes.
All right. First, I want to say.
How have they made you a better person?
Okay. First, I do want to say something because I remember when I was a kid, I watched this movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, and there was a New York party scene that I always thought that's what I want to go to parties like that someday. And I feel like I've finally made it. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much, Susan, for doing this. And that you always have like this incredible ideas of getting people together and like connecting all these.
Well, I want to bring more like West Coast, East Coast. So tonight to me is very much. I live in San Francisco and down by Big Sur and here in Soho, and the vibe is so different in all of these places. And there is a fair amount of crossover, certainly in interest, but not in questions.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
So.
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, in terms of robots, I mean, I'm curious to hear what a lot of you are thinking about. One of the things I've been really wrestling with lately is a lot of the fears that have been out there. And by the way, these slides here are not really synchronized with anything we're saying. They're just kind of although that is relevant.
But answer my question. Answer my first question is like, out of 30 years, how have robots changed you?
Well, how have they changed me?
Yeah, like you've experienced them as personally, and then we can dive into,
That's an interesting question. I think I've gotten.
You have them at home for sure.
Yeah, but I've gotten more sympathetic with humans.
Okay.
Over those years, and part of it is I appreciate because here's the amazing thing: robots are incredibly clumsy, And they have a lot of limitations. This is the thing, if you work with them, they actually are maddeningly imprecise. They're constantly falling down. They're constantly breaking down. They have all these limitations. But when you watch a science fiction movie, you know, you see these robots, like Ex Machina or the Terminator or something, and they have these almost superhuman powers. So it's completely, extremely different than the reality when you're working in a lab. And you wanted to just pick up a glass and it drops like 100 times.
Can we rewind for a second or two before we dive into cloud robotics, which is far too advanced for me? That's like in 5 minutes.
All right.
So for this, as I was saying, like this is a different crowd than it is in San Francisco. We don't hang around at cocktail parties talking about singularity or microdosing or robotics.
Wait, we're not
That's what we talk about in San Francisco. Like everyone is a part-time like professor at the NASA Ames, on the campus, teaching at Singularity University. That's not the case here. Like, what the hell is a robot? Yeah, what's a robot? Okay, very quickly.
Right there.
Okay, so one or two line. What's a robot? One or two examples of what a robot looks like that we wouldn't expect, because in our mind it's going to be my rudimentary drawing that I did over there. And then one or two examples of how a robot exists in our day-to-day life that we aren't aware of, whether it's whatever it's doing.
Okay, okay, good.
So let's like take a few steps back.
All right, okay, what is a robot? So a robot is, it's really an interesting idea because it's really a cultural concept. And the word goes back to 1928. It was Karl Čapek, a Czech playwright, who coined the word. And it really is, it's a great word. It's fun to say, people love it, it has a sort of magic power to it. And it really characterizes something that is in people's imagination. And it's something that oftentimes is something that has a human-like quality. In particular, we like to think of it as something that moves. So if you have something that's just on your screen, right, or just like an app or something like that, we wouldn't call that a robot. A robot has to interact with the physical world in some way. Now, when you say where's an example where we don't see it, we may not think of it that way. One that I'm really interested in right now is the Amazon Echo.
Okay, I don't know anything about that stuff.
You don't? Oh.
I have one.
How many people have the Amazon Echo or use it? Okay. So it's Alexa. Yeah, you say.
Okay.
Talk to it. It's like Siri. But here's the idea. That is, if you experiment with it, it's an incredibly interesting example of something that is, I think, starts to move off the screen into your physical reality. So you have it like in your kitchen, and when you're cooking, it will set timers and give you music and answer questions. And the thing is that it really starts to become almost like something in your house. And it's conversational. I mean, it's almost like...
Do you get better at it? Does the relationship get better?
That's very interesting question, because actually...
It gets worse.
No.
It gets better initially, but it's like it plummets. The first 2 months are great.
Yeah, there's a certain time of the month when it's really hard to work with, but ignores you. Moody. But the thing about Alexa is I do think this is going to be a phenomenon. We're going to start seeing this all over. I mean, if you get it, you start to use it, especially senior citizens. So my mother-in-law have it, and they actually really like it a lot because it's a lot easier for them to use than pulling out a screen and trying to interface with it. And the thing is that there's a new thing coming that's called the Jibo that keep an eye out for. It's going to be released soon. It's been developed by a friend of mine, Cynthia Brazil, and the idea is it's like an Amazon Echo, so it just sits on your counter, but it has one additional thing, is it has a head that moves around. Okay?
Not creepy at all. Not creepy at all.
Exactly.
A candlelit head. It would be very nice.
Now, when I say head, it's basically like a camera, but it kind of looks around, and it has a sort of a personality. Like it looks sad, and it can look up, perky, and it will take pictures. And that's gonna be a very interesting step, because that's gonna be more like a real member of the family. And it's gonna be very interesting. It raises a lot of privacy questions, which are a very big issue right now in robotics.
Sure, of course.
But this is something to really keep an eye on, because I think when that comes out, which should be sometime later this year, that's going to become a whole new level of this kind of home automation system. We're going to really start asking some really deeper questions. We're going to start seeing them interacting in a whole new way. And here's an interesting question. A lot of people take the Amazon Echo, right? It's very inexpensive now. It's $180 or so, but it gives you unlimited music, all these great features. But a lot of people like to now put these in their bedroom because it's a great way to, it has an instant alarm clock, plays music while you go to sleep, but also you're just putting a very, very powerful sensitive microphone with an internet connection next to your bed.
Right.
Okay? I mean, there's a really interesting questions there about what we're voluntarily opening ourselves up to in terms of
Privacy.
exposure to press. Yeah.
Privacy.
So that's a big issue in robotics right now.
So robots are really good at precision and at repeating the same function over and over in a way that humans necessarily aren't. But a robot would maybe find it more complicated to walk across Grand Street on a Saturday night and run into a neighbor like Mark and Susie while going to grab like a late night espresso. Why is that?
Yeah, no, it's good.
What is that principle all about?
Right,
Yeah.
because the key challenge for robotics is perception. And it turns out that we do this really, like, look at Elijah, he's able to navigate across this very complicated...
Like thinking no one's going to notice him. I want another root beer.
Wait, that's a robot?
It's very human-like, though. But what he just did is incredibly far beyond...
And complicated. There's candles involved with weird lights, and there's all these external things.
And there's a lot of other things that goes on, which is that there's body language. People kind of know by his moving, you kind of know what he's going to do.
What is it
right?
called, the space around a robot?
Your personal space.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think. Well, it's interesting. That's also when you come into the realm of cars, this gets very interesting. So I want to also say, a lot of people you've been hearing about Uber is about to announce the driverless car. Right? Everybody says that's happening maybe soon, maybe the end of this year, and maybe next year in Pittsburgh. Get rid of all the drivers, and all these poor drivers are going to be out of work. I can tell you, I'm willing to take a bet from anybody here or anywhere that it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for next year. It's not going to happen in 5 years. It won't happen for at least 10 years. We are nowhere close. And most of the people working in the field agree. The complexity of driving in a complicated real scenario is extremely difficult. And Pittsburgh in the rain is with potholes and the way Pittsburgh.
You went to school there,
I went to
right?
school
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh.
You
That's
go
going to be the last
Pittsburgh
place.
Instantly.
Yeah, it's really hard. to
Maybe
do.
San Diego or something.
Exactly, San Diego or Palo Alto, which is where they're doing it now, and that's like it's like a country club, like a golf course. Yeah, sure, we could do that. But being able to have robots, drivers in all kinds of complicated situations, like you're saying, getting across, like right down here in the village, forget it. So it's being overhyped, and I really want to say it's amazing. The New York Times is saying this. I don't know if anyone from the Times is here. Forgive me, but I have to say it is amazing to me to watch this kind of grand delusion that everybody believes that AI is about to, we're on the verge of the singularity that
Okay,
robots are
so
going to take over.
that's going to be the next question. Again, this is a hot topic, microdosing and singularity. So this is not a topic that any of us are really thinking about in Soho on a Saturday night. But, are we going to be going down that dystopian rabbit hole of, is one computer going to be smarter than all of us put together in this room? No, of course we're not. I mean, we know the answer is no. It's a little bit of silliness, maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that look, we already know computers are much better than us at like taking the square root of some gigantic number, right? There's no surprise that they exceed us in certain tasks, keeping track of vast lists of numbers, sorting. Here's an example of searching, right? Google is pretty miraculous at giving us what we want when you type in something into the computer. But one of the things to keep in mind there is that it's a result of a huge amount of computation, huge amount of algorithms, data, and also our personal input, our input as humans, are constantly tuning that system to make it as good as it is. So every time Google gives you that list of options, right, returns, and when you click on one, you're giving it feedback. This was the one that I wanted. And that's really important because Google constantly needs that human input to tune its algorithms. So the humans play a very important role, and I don't think that's going away. We this idea, like we've been talking about it since the Greeks, since Pygmalion and the Golem.
The Iliad, I think it is.
The Iliad has a robot?
There is robots in the Iliad, for sure.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, there you go.
I was good at my ancient Greek and Latin in school.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So many, maybe 3 or 4 more questions. Are humans and robots better together?
Where are you going with that?
Well, just like the collective intelligence of
yes. Okay.
having, yeah.
Sorry.
No, so I know last week in the UK, sex and sex robots and humans was a big story. I don't know. It actually doesn't seem like a remotely big story. It sounds like a very boring story. It doesn't sound remotely hot to me, so we're not going to talk about it.
No.
But I think, okay. Or let's change the question to: is one robot doing 10,000 tasks better than? Let's talk about cloud robotics.
All right. So I'm really.
And what does that mean? Because again, we're not that we just have it. It's a different technology here. It's a different verbiology that we have. Verbiology.
Yeah. No.
We have in the West Coast.
All right. You don't know about cloud robotics? Is that?
Probably not.
No, okay,
I think like no one knows about cloud robotics.
It's New York, not San Francisco.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, cloud robotics is simply
maybe
the idea.
rewind the cloud.
Okay. The cloud. No, the idea is that that robots are connected over the cloud increasingly, and so the cloud actually enables a lot more things that we could do with robots than we could before. Because you don't have to carry all of your memory and all your processing on board. Right? That was always the view that we always had in robotics. That a robot like a human had to carry everything on board, self-contained. But now we don't do that, and the idea is that robots are actually connected together to data centers where they get access to data, they get access to computations, they can do very elaborate stochastic computations. But more importantly, they can actually start sharing information. So what Susan, you're alluding to is the idea that if a robot is going around cleaning up your home, by the way, this is an area I think we will see in the near future. Yes. I know. Well, the Roomba is the dust level, right? Next thing we want is to put everything away, like all the clutter. And that, I think we are going to see that. I think you're going to see that by the end of, I'll bet that we will see by the end of the decade. And here's the idea, is that wouldn't it be great, you just go to work and then you come home and the house is straightened up. The bed is made and the dish, like in a hotel. Exactly. Exactly. So they do that with turn down, thing. But I think that, the idea though is, the way I think that it's going to work is that robots will be working, and then what they're doing is they're going to be learning how to pick things up, how to put things away, how to make a bed. And every time a robot sort of makes progress, they're going to share that with all the other robots that are out there, right, over the net. And that collective idea of being able to learn collectively is going to really make them better and better over time. And that I'm really excited about. I think that field of cloud robotics is going to be very, very. Is going to change the field in the next few years. And the other idea that I want to mention is the idea of humans interacting with robots is actually, in all seriousness, that is the future as well. That rather than having robots replacing humans and robots interacting is going to be very, very commonplace. And then an example is like you look at autopilots in airplanes or increasingly in cars, but you're kind of working with this system. It's relieving you of tedium. Maybe you get to take your mind off things for a little while.
So what he's gently moving into is robots taking over your jobs, but they're not taking over your jobs, right?
No. Okay.
So I like this is very well branded the way the PR that he's doing here
Thank
as
you.
the roboticist. But I would like to draw the attention to, because it is a little bit of the elephant in the room of like, are robots going to take over your job? And no, they're going to bring more value. We're going to be able to bring more value potentially to the economy with robots, so that we can go do jobs in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say?
I am, because here's the thing. When you hear all this news about robots stealing jobs, right? We've been hearing this lately. Remember,
very big political, very just like hot in the media, just generally.
Oh yeah, but here's the idea. If you think about it from the perspective of history, because it's just robots are just the latest scapegoats in a long line. Because 100 years ago, it was the Chinese. There was Yellow Peril, who were going to steal our jobs. And you can see, if you Google that, you'll see all these images about that. They were going to steal our jobs. Then it was the other immigrants that were going to steal our jobs. And everybody wants to blame immigrants. And so robots are like the immigrants of the future. Right? They're like the new immigrants that we
I
can
was going to
blame.
say that phrase. You totally stole it.
Actually, it's not my phrase. It came from the
I know. I was going to ask you
economist.
whose phrase it was.
I know. I have a quote up there with this citation. I think that they're not gonna take over as dramatically as we think. There's no doubt that people are out of work and there's a lot of income inequality and a lot of suffering out there. I'm not denying that at all. But what I want to say is that it's so convenient to blame automation and technology for that, and that is not really, if you really understand what's going on. And by the way, there's really good economists at MIT and Oxford that are actually writing about this, but from a very naive point of view about the technology. They're good economists. I'm not just doubting that, but I don't want to get started in all the details about why they're wrong, but their articles are really flawed. And I have a lot of concern about what is coming around there, and it's causing fear for a lot of people all over the world, especially truck drivers and any kind of worker, that they're afraid they're about to lose their job. But the fact is they're not.
They could actually do their job in a better way.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Or human interaction.
So here's the thing, you're going to still need a truck driver, but the truck driver is probably going to be able to sleep for a fair amount of time during the middle of the night. But the last few miles, right, when you have to get that truck in through the city into its place, you need a human driver. So we're going to need a lot of human
For
drivers.
the next 10 years, but then after that.
Well, that's a question. So here's the question. Here's the analogy is with the autopilot. He said, well, 10 years and then we get rid of the humans. But autopilot has been around now for 30 years. And we still have human pilots in the airplane.
Like none of us want to get into a plane with them.
Exactly. Actually, Boeing has there's a story someone said that Boeing is trying, first they had 3 pilots, now they're down to 2 pilots, and now next they want to go to 1 pilot and a dog. And why? Well, the 1 pilot is there to reassure the passengers that there's a human up there.
And the dog is there to reassure the pilot?
No, the dog is there to bite the pilot if he tries to touch anything.
Okay, so let's move off of this to, wow. Someone's down.
Free speech?
Yeah. No. So you're an artist and you're a filmmaker, and I know you've worked a lot with robotics on the art side. Tell us about the first robot on the internet, which I think you might have been behind.
Oh yeah. So there's a picture in there somewhere of the Telegarden when right around the time I met Susan in 1990. Well, this was a little earlier, 95. When the web was just starting out, we were working in robotics in my lab, and my students turned me on to it, and we said we wanted to do something to get involved and help out this new thing, this web. So we thought, well, we'll connect a robot to the internet. And so
does it exist?
Yeah, well, that was the interesting thing. So we made it into a garden, and I thought of it as an art project because it was also about there was a little bit of a critique that no one really spent time there actually like growing plants, but it was the first. They say it's the first internet robot.
Wow. So I recall. I can't remember what year, but I think I've got a plant in my head. That we did a bird cam. You were the first Craigslist professor of new media at UC Berkeley, and we did a bird cam at Craig's home. And so Craig lives in San Francisco, and Ken was the Craigslist chair of new media, and we set up, I think, was it a robot over at Craig's home, where we were going to film what the birds were doing at his house, and people were like moving the camera to inside his house. I can't really remember.
No, not inside his house. It's a good. Actually, I thank you for that because Susan connected me with Craig. And Jim at Craigslist, and he actually, when we were doing a project with, we wanted a camera that people could zoom in on birds, because bird watching. Any bird watchers here?
Twitchers? Any twitchers here? Any twitchers
No.
here?
See, it turns out that bird watching is the biggest American pastime.
Yes.
But nobody on either coast does it. Okay? It's very bizarre. But people will spend enormous amounts of time watching birds. It's fascinating. And if they're live, they'll zoom in and they'll take pictures of them and things. So we set up a bird cam.
It's a strong vertical.
It's a strong, is that what we call it? The niche.
Strong
It's a niche.
vertical.
But the idea was it was a robotic camera, so it could move around, and you could control it over the internet. And we wanted to set it up somewhere we could get close to, and so it turns out Craig had a house with big woods behind it, so we set it up there. And yeah, that attracted a huge amount of participation.
Yeah. Sometimes it didn't work so well. Yeah.
It didn't work?
It didn't initially. I remember it was a little I think people were moving the camera inside the house. But anyway,
okay,
we got it all. It was all good eventually.
Okay.
It was all good. It was all good.
Well, to your point, I mean, listen, the name of the game in robotics is they do fail. That's
yeah,
the
okay,
most important thing.
So moving, I think this is one more question for me, and then we'll probably do a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll move on to music. You must have some robots in home. I don't have any robots at home that I know of. Now you're going to probably tell me that I have like multiple robots at home. But I don't think I have any robots. I use a fountain pen. I made all the food manually tonight. I hold up all the soil for the plants. I would love to have a robot. But I'm betting you have a robot at home. So what do your daughters grew up with robots?
Well, okay, don't think of like the Jetsons here exactly, but I don't want to.
But I want to hear a robot screw up.
All right. Well,
I want to hear a robot awkward moment. Right. Like, there's got to be some like weird robot awkward moments in like 2004.
Well, actually, okay, there's a lot of weird robot moments. But we do have one area we have a robot which is what's called a litter bot for the cat litter. Changing the cat litter, and I know it's not that glamorous, but it is actually.
But aren't you glad that you're not doing it?
I'm super glad I'm not doing it, and it's a really, I mean, and this thing is really well designed. It doesn't look like a little humanoid or anything. It just has it's actually a big cylinder that turns, but it's really well designed with all these levers and chambers, and it's basically 1 degree of freedom, 1 motor, but it works beautifully, and it's a it's a perfect example of something that's out there. But I'll tell you, you do have a robot, I think, in this house, which I would say your dishwasher.
Yes.
You have a washing machine.
Yeah.
Right? And you have, let's see, probably not like...
I have a timer for water up on the roof.
You do? Oh, for watering plants?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So these are all robots. So that's what I was thinking, like the initial question of like, we have this idea of like robots being scary, and they are like the most human-like machines that we have. But there's a lot of robots around us all the time that we don't really realize.
Yeah, exactly. What? Your what? Your ex was a robot? Yeah. So we can take that in many different ways.
Emotionally.
Emotionally. There's the quote.
Okay,
There's
so
all of them.
one more question, and then I'll open it up to others. So, some other art projects. I think you did. Stephen is here. I think did you guys do an art project together?
Stephen.
Where's Stephen?
Stephen.
He's hiding somewhere.
He's in the back. Steve and I did a project that was a sculpture. It's in one of the slides, but it's a white. We call it Body in White, and it's a tribute to one of the great robots of actually Detroit, which is where Steve's from, and it's an industrial robot arm. It'll come up there in a little bit. But Steve, do you want to add to that? He did it in white plaster.
Well, you and I were having, I think, lunch after I had just been to the Noguchi Museum.
Oh, Noguchi, right.
Right. So it sort of started off out of a conversation that you and I had about Noguchi, because we were talking about how Noguchi was collaborating with a lot. Noguchi was an interesting character because he didn't quite fit into any one field, right? Because he was sort of from the East, he's sort of from the West, and he sort of felt displaced. But he was always collaborating with other people who are also architects or designers or things like that. And I just thought, here with I think the art world has had a hard time for years sort of placing him, because he did sculpture, but he also did gardens. And he had all these commissions, and I think people in the United States had a hard time with him because he was always, he's this guy from the West or the East, and then, but he also did designs, but he also did playgrounds, and he did fine art. So I think a lot of it had to do with
Noguchi. Yeah,
I think Noguchi being underappreciated, and And then we were talking about just, I think a lot of the things that he did that were realized or were not realized had to do with certain collaboration, and he loved the collaboration.
Right.
And so you and I just sat down and said, what if we collaborated on something, what would it be?
Yes.
But we were also looking at how, some of the robots seem very anthropomorphic, and how, if we did something, what would it be? And then we started talking about Detroit and automation, and then we started talking about Duchamp, and then you went away and then you did a little bit of research, and then you came up with this incredibly beautiful, poetic device that we ended up hanging it on, which was this industrial process.
And where did you put this? Where did you guys show this?
It was in the Young Museum.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, in San Francisco.
But yeah, if you get up close to it, it's all plaster. It's sort of it's meant to be kind of like a classic sculpture. But you're right, the Gucci was really, because you can see a Gucci element and sort of the cantilever faces on it. But yeah, no, and I've had that, I'm working.
So questions here, we'll do a handful of questions.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. The first one is, how do I get the cat litter robot? Yeah. And
Obviously, you definitely want the cat litter robot.
The second one is, do you see differences in different cultures as to what constitutes a robot and what doesn't? And I'm interested in that because in South Africa, the word robot means traffic light, because they had human traffic guides, and then they replaced them with modern traffic lights, and everyone was like, oh, they replaced humans with robots, like that's a robot.
Oh,
and
great.
So where do you draw the line as to what do people consider a robot and what do people not throughout cultures?
Okay, it's a great question. So she's asking about, first of all, it's called Litterbot.
Litterbot?
Go look it up. It's totally worth it. No, but the cultural difference about robots. So first of all, I love that you brought up the example of a traffic light. So, when Susan mentioned, where's a robot in your house, right? But a traffic light, actually, if a traffic light is observing traffic and actually adjusting its time that it's on and off based on patterns, then it would start to become a robot. Even though it's not moving, but it's moving something in the world by its signaling, right? So a thermostat is another example like that. So
a thermostat's a robot?
It can be, if it's smart. If it's really learning over time and learning patterns, like the Nest.
Like a Nest is
yeah. So, but cultural differences, I just met you from Japan, right? So Japan is actually very different. If you think about, if you remember Astro Boy, Japan has a very different conception of robotics. And I don't know if you would want to say anything about it, but it seems as though a lot of the fears, in the West, we always think of Frankenstein and, things going wrong with robots. But in Japan, it's much more of a positive relationship. Is that fair?
I think so, yeah. But I've been here for such a long time that I don't know much about it.
It's still there, though. In Japan, there's a real heroism, and Astro Boy was like a hero, and it was a really good, he saved the day and things. So I think that it's different in different cultures. You're absolutely right. And it's also changing. So our way that we think about robots, I think, is evolving over time, and that's what's going to be interesting to watch. How kids, like these guys, think about robots very differently than we did, right? They're the whole idea, they do not know a world without the web. They have, they're just used to having connectivity, augmented reality, Pokemon Go, all those things. That's just completely natural to them. So that's a moving target too.
Yeah. You're right here, yes.
Yeah. The 3 of us watched the Ghost in the Shell movie yesterday, and the one thing was that.
Are we on that?
Natalie.
Nice to meet you. I know, because I heard about you on email.
And it strikes you how miserable humans are when robots are around. And just everyone seems to be stuck in a little cell and unhappy.
Doubting themselves, right?
Yeah, it's just like, what's my meaning? And then there are, I recently read
We're not perfect.
Hillbilly Elegy, and you feel like the world is going to be like, we're all going to be Appalachian people when robots do everything that we do, other than maybe making judgment calls at a very high level. But most of us, 99% of us, will be just, purposeless.
Okay.
So how do like if we extrapolate this 100
Yeah.
years out,
Uh-huh.
are we happier as people, or are we less happy?
Good.
As
Okay.
robots.
Good. Okay. But I would say that two things. One is that vision is based on this idea of robots really being able to take over all these functions. Like to my mind, the Wall-E is a great example, right? Where everybody's kind of just sort of slightly sedated and just like sucking on a straw and watching some bad
Right.
movie.
But that's just a matter of time.
No.
I mean, 'cause-
No, I'll disagree with you. I don't think that's just a matter of time. People have said that about for hundreds or even thousands of years that that technology is that's going to happen soon, but it doesn't. What happens is, excuse me, what we're learning is that every time that we advance in technology, we also end up with interesting new things for humans to do, new challenges, new kinds of forms of creativity and ways to connect with each other. I think if we really had robots, if they advance as far as they're going, as far as you're suggesting, which I don't think they're going to go that fast, but we're going to have more time to do this, like to hang out at parties and have interesything conversations.
But this doesn't pay.
No.
So is there like another economic system?
All right. Okay. We're going to get into the whole issue of productivity and everything else. The idea is we're working harder than we ever did.
You're not very creative. Totally kidding.
I mean, the things that are creative, like, really connecting with each other, being creative, being empathetic, having conversations and interactions, right? Like, these kind of conversations, I mean, we would probably go on do a lot more of this if we didn't have so much work to do, right? So if we have a little bit less work, I think it's going to be quickly filled up with really interesting activities. Not we're going to be like lazy, in a pod somewhere. So I really don't think that it's going to lead to the end of human nature at all.
So what's the incentive to be?
Okay, Rachel, go. Oh,
I
no.
mean, you're working for somebody in theory, right?
Mark,
And you're
artist from Soho.
And you're
The
doing
corner.
less work for this person. Is he going to pay you to do
Well,
less work?
so-
then? I mean,
so-
You're going to do a
seriously.
different job better.
Here's the idea. Wait, before we get. Right. Here's the thing. Let me not get too far down this rabbit hole because it gets very technical. But I will say this: in 50 years ago, actually, people worked longer weeks. The work week was longer. The whole idea of a weekend, a real weekend, it came around after World War II. So the idea is that actually we can adapt pretty well as technology advances and productivity advances to actually having a little more leisure time. So it's not going to, but don't jump to the conclusion that we'll never be able to work and that the economy will come into a tailspin. Let me talk about something else actually for a minute because I think we're running out of time.
Yeah,
All
and then
right.
we're going to do music.
All right, one thing I really want to get everybody's feedback on before we go is a topic that's a little different but related. And I really want to ask you all about this as a Berkeley professor. Because you've been reading what's going on in the paper. That's with the news that is that we've had the speakers coming to Berkeley and Ann Coulter and Milo, and we've had it with basically attacking the university as basically shutting down free speech. Hey, you guys in the back, can you guys just give a second? What I want to ask is, I think Berkeley is doing the wrong thing right now. And they're arguing that, if you saw the New York Times op-ed by our chancellor, he said, we're getting squeezed by the left and the right, and we're just trying to protect our students. I don't think that's the right answer at all. I think that...
I didn't see this. I'm not. Who else read this? I didn't read this off.
It was in this week.
Okay.
So here's what I'm curious about. I believe that that free speech is dangerous. That it is actually inherently risky, and it's a good thing. It's what free speech should be. And what free speech is about taking chances, taking risks, expressing something, and there may be consequences. But that's okay. When you go to speak on your mind, that somebody may disagree with you, they may even throw something at you, okay? That's one of the, I think, inherent parts of the equation of free speech. It was back in the students who fought for free speech in Berkeley in the 1960s, they put their bodies on the line. They took a big risk. They knew what that meant. And I think that that's what we have to do today. In other words, we should set up a zone. So my answer is, set up a zone, a corner of the campus that's a free speech zone. And just say, anybody can come and speak. We're not going to control it. We're also going to put up a sign that says, go at your own risk. Like we're not here to protect you. I think this whole idea of trying to protect all the students, this, against trigger warnings and all this stuff, it's like we're trying to protect everybody, and we're doing just the opposite. We're actually undermining the the idea of free speech.
Wait a minute, let me object to this. First of all,
I love
the
this.
free speech zone is the United States of America. The Constitution protects all of our rights to free speech. Second, what you've just put forward is a justification. If I don't like what you're saying, I can go into your classroom and shoot you. I mean, how have you not justified this? How have you not justified this? You speak at your own risk.
No. Okay. Let me say two things. First of all, thank you for your forceful statement. I love New York. What is your name, just so I know?
James Toronto.
James. All right, thanks. Here's the thing. I want to say two things. One is, no, I don't. My classroom is not a zone for free speech. Absolutely not. No, a student cannot get up and say whatever they want in there. No, that's not allowed. It's just like a form of a courtroom. You can't go in and say whatever you want anywhere. No, I'm not claiming that at all.
So the only place you have free speech is where people can physically do violence to you in response to your speech.
That's not the only place, but it's one place. I want to claim. All right, no, hey, wait, let him talk. I want to respect your free speech. And here's the thing. No. You're doing exactly what I want to applaud and I want to support, which is you're challenging me. You're going to ask me a hard question. You're gonna like really like push back.
And by the way, I'm not going to physically attack you. And I'm sure you will be.
Yeah, I won't either. But you know what? The thing is that you're right. You know, I'm not saying anywhere, but what I'm saying is that we should have a zone, and that's in that zone. Well, because
that sounds so weird.
Okay.
Doesn't that fly in the face of everything that?
I love Ken testing out new things in New York.
Universities have been setting up free speech zones for at least a decade, probably 2 decades.
Well, and
that means you have no free speech anywhere in the university except in this,
Excuse me.
half a percent.
Wait. Okay, so we're gonna.
Okay, DC, over here.
Yes, first of all, I question the fact that you segment free speech because it's about freedom, and freedom should not be segmented. But secondly, what just happened now, it may be exactly why you may want to segment it. Because here's a man talking, a man who's louder than any other woman who tries to intervene, who's talking, another man who's talking, and finally, thank you, Susan says DC should talk. So this is not about free speech. It is about giving everybody, even the ones who may not shout as loud as you do, whoever you are, I apologize, it's not personal, but maybe it is, to be able to have
I'm not shouting, this is my regular voice.
You can't whisper, by the way.
Wait. So thank you for breaking that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the concept of safe spaces is actually antithetical to free speech.
Yes.
I would presume that this is a rather liberal-leaning crowd in this room.
I think that's not the way to presume ever.
I could be wrong, but okay, then I will say, as I am a liberal-leaning person myself,
I think
that a lot of us, the concept of safe spaces, I mean, I actually wrote about this last year, the concept of safe spaces is really liberals saying you can have a safe space as long as I agree with you.
yes.
And I think we liberals are actually damaging free speech more than the right is, because we only want to hear what we think we are morally superior and believe is right, and we do not want to hear things that we think are wrong. We do not create safe spaces for pro-lifers. We do not create safe spaces for anything that it's a really, I think safe spaces has damaged free speech.
So wait. I'm gonna let you. I love this.
Okay.
First of all, I will say this. I did not say safe space.
I know you did.
I said I want to actually call it an
I think what you said was the opposite.
I want to call it.
Actually, he wants to
I
make
want to
it
call it
like totally not safe.
So we agree.
No, I know, but I think that
Anyone from a foreign country knows what a zone is.
I would like to take a moment to say, so one of the elephants in the room here is Milo, who was going to go, no, he's not here, but he was. But a funny thing is like, I've known Milo for years, and he was going to go talk at Berkeley and what have you. Anyways, he's quite conservative. He did a lovely article about coming over for brunch at my house in the Telegraph. Literally, it's a very flowery article about how gracious I was as a hostess. I think it's wonderful. I quite like it.
Okay, so we'll bring him out. You'll invite him.
It was like coming to Silicon Valley at like this lovely home. So this is.
No, listen.
So one more question. I think one more question, or
Okay, all right.
Like a final
No,
video, and then music. Where's,
All right.
where's Ray?
I want to do one thing before, and I see I lit a bit of a Molotov
No, but
cocktail
it's
here.
great.
With that.
It's great. It's great. It's great. It's so
Okay.
different from the
'Cause
conversation in New York.
All right, because I want to continue that discussion later, and I want to close by giving you something, Susan. This is
thank you.
So this is okay. It is kind of a robot, although it's not obvious. This this is a mathematical object.
I
Okay.
took maths A-level, and I was so lousy at mathematics. I have to say I was so bad at it. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that you'll understand this is it's something that was conjectured not to exist for many years. Vladimir Arnold was a Russian mathematician, and he basically said that was something called a geometric monostable, a three-dimensional monostable, could not exist. And basically it was based on the fact that in 2 dimensions we can prove that it doesn't exist. So people thought, well, in 3 dimensions it can't exist either. And these 2 Hungarian mathematician and an architect worked for 10 years, and they actually proved him wrong by coming up with a counterexample. And this is, they call it the Gombots, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, but it's with two umlauts. And I'm going to give it to you. This is the first batch of them that is now being imported to the United States.
Thank you so much. So the first is here in Soho. What does it do?
It does, well, what it does, okay.
It doesn't do anything.
No,
it just exists.
No, it does something. It does something. It only...
There must be something functional.
So here's what it does. It only rests in one stable pose. So you can drop it
it's
in
a bit
any...
like a Calder stabule or something.
It's kind of like a stable...
It's a Weeble.
What? It's like a Weeble.
I'm nervous about opening it up right now, but I will in a moment.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay.
Here, I'll grab this.
Okay.
The idea is a Weeble, or like one of those punch bags, things that you have. That is also a monostable, but it has a non-uniform mass. It has a big heavy base on it, right? That's why it always pops up. But nobody thought that you could have something with uniform mass that would also have that same property.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what's going on here? I feel like so much might happen. Don't you guys all feel like I want to pass it around?
Pass it around.
Right?
The beauty of it, you can appreciate it most when you have a perfectly
this
flat
is something
table.
this is not what I was expecting. It might change temperature when you hold it. Yeah.
It'll tell your future.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of good.
Does it drive your car?
Yeah, drive your car. As long as you want to just park it and leave it where it is. Basically, it's very good at staying put. That's what it's really about. It's about being centered, coming back to California. So I want to thank you all for listening.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. So, otherwise, help yourself for more cocktails. Go up on the roof if you're feeling a little bit warm. And we're going to have a concert, so enjoy yourselves.
So we'll say robots.
Yeah, let's hear
Robots? Yeah, shut this down.